You know that feeling? You're standing somewhere new, maybe a busy train station, or a little shop abroad,
Hmm.
and you just need to do something simple, really simple. Find the right train, ask how much this something costs, or, even just say hello.
Yeah, and suddenly the words just aren't there. Or they are, but they won't connect.
Exactly. Your tongue feels tied. And that easy task suddenly feels like this huge source of stress, of anxiety.
It's that classic initial hurdle, isn't it?
Mhm.
Especially when you're just starting out with a new language.
Totally. It's more than just knowing the words, like you said.
Right, it's about actually using them. Knowing how to put those individual bricks together to, well, build a conversation.
For beginners in English, those first few attempts can feel, well, daunting, like trying to cross an ocean on a few planks.
That's a good way to put it, that feeling of being stuck just pointing or using single words.
That's exactly what we want to help you, our listener, move past today.
So we're doing a deep dive.
We are. We're diving into a source a listener sent us, helpfully titled 40 Basic English Phrases for Beginners.
Okay.
And our mission is super practical. We want to unpack this, pull out the absolute must-have phrases, the ones you can use immediately,
The ones that'll actually make those daily interactions smoother, less stressful.
and help you start communicating for real, right away, moving beyond just single words.
Sounds useful. How's the source structured? Does it break things down logically?
It does, yeah. It's pretty well organized. It starts with those first moments, meeting someone, then moves into politeness, practical stuff like dining and shopping.
And asking for help. That's crucial.
Absolutely. It covers asking for assistance too, so different key areas.
Okay, good.
So think of this deep dive as like your essential starter kit for English conversation. We're going to filter out the core advice from this article.
Distill it down into actionable phrases.
Exactly. By the end, you, listening, should have a really practical set of tools ready to go.
Not just abstract grammar points, but actual keys to unlock those everyday situations.
Right. Build confidence. Sound a bit more natural, even if you're just starting.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this source.
Right, let's do it. And we're better to start than, well, the absolute beginning of any chat. Saying hello, introducing yourself.
The absolute foundation.
The source calls this section Navigating First Contact Greetings and Self-Introductions. And yeah, these are the building blocks.
They really are. And the source kicks off with the big three basic greetings. Hello, hi, and hey.
Simple words, but the difference between them is all about formality, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that nuance is surprisingly important right from the start. The source nails this distinction.
It does. It flags hello as the most formal.
Right. You'd use hello when you first meet someone or maybe talking to a boss, a teacher, someone in authority, professional settings.
The example given is, hello, Mrs. Warren. Using the title and last name really shows that formality. It signals respect, keeps a bit of distance.
Precisely. Then you step down a notch to hi.
Much more common, right?
Oh yeah, hugely common. It's less formal than hello, but it's generally fine for most casual or semi-formal situations.
Like with friends, colleagues you know reasonably well, people in shops.
Exactly. The source uses hi Sharon as the example. It's friendly, easygoing, perfect for everyday stuff.
And then we get to hey.
The most informal of the bunch. The source is clear on this.
Yeah, this one's really for people you know well. Close friends, family, people you're really relaxed with.
The example, hey Sharon,
Mm.
feels much more casual than hi Sharon, doesn't it? Like a quick familiar nod between friends.
Totally. And using hey with, say, a potential employer in an interview, probably not the best idea.
No, definitely not. It could come across as way too familiar, maybe even a bit disrespectful, even if you don't mean it to.
So understanding which one to use, hello for formal new, hi for general friendly, hey for close connections, it really helps make that first impression.
It's a huge shortcut for beginners navigating those social cues. Avoids awkwardness, starts things off right.
Okay, so beyond those general greetings, the source also covers time-specific ones.
Ah, yes. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Pretty straightforward, tied to the time of day. Morning until noon, noon till early evening, then evening onwards.
Right, and the source mentions they have sort of a dual purpose.
Yeah. You can use them to actually start a proper conversation, like, good morning, Mr. Sandoval. That feels Quite polite, maybe a bit traditional.
Or you can just use them as a quick, polite nod when you pass someone.
Right, like in the hallway at work, or maybe walking past a neighbor, a quick good afternoon without stopping to chat.
Yeah, it works as both a conversation opener and just a brief social acknowledgement.
How do they compare to hello or hi in terms of feel?
Generally, they feel a little more formal, maybe, or just more traditional. They're really baked into daily politeness in English-speaking cultures.
You hear them constantly. Entering a shop, greeting colleagues.
Exactly. They kind of mark the day socially.
Yeah.
Choosing one sometimes feels a bit more considered than just a quick hi.
Okay, so you've said hello, maybe used a time-specific greeting. If you're meeting someone for the very first time, what comes next?
The source gives us the perfect phrase, nice to meet you.
Indispensable, right?
Absolutely. Standard, polite, and crucially, only for the first time you meet someone. You wouldn't say it to someone you already know.
And the source says it usually comes right after the hello, often just after you've exchanged names.
Yeah, the example dialogue nails the flow.
Mm-hmm.
A, hello, my name is Karen. B, nice to meet you. It just fits perfectly.
Feels totally natural.
And using it shows warmth, politeness. It acknowledges that new connection.
What if you forget? Does it matter?
Well, it can make the interaction feel a little abrupt, maybe incomplete. It's a small phrase, but it carries social weight in that first encounter.
And people often say nice to meet you too, right?
Exactly. That reciprocal response reinforces the positive start.
Okay, so after the nice to meet you, you probably need to give your own name. The source includes the basic phrase for this.
My name is M.
Simple enough, just put your name in the blank.
But wait, there's that formality distinction again, just like with the greetings. The source brings this up.
Right. So in a formal situation, job interview, conference, meeting someone important, you'd usually give your full name.
Typically, yes. First and last name. The example is, my name is Jack Frost. Gives more info, matches the formal setting.
But if it's more casual, like a party, joining a club,
Then usually just your first name is fine. My name is Jack. Or maybe even a nickname if that's what you go by.
so again, context is key. Matching the level of detail to the situation makes you sound more natural.
Spot on.
Now, a phrase that often follows, and the source points out is super versatile, is I am.
Ah, yes. This little structure, I am, is incredibly useful. A real workhorse for beginners.
Because it's not just for your name, right? The source lists loads of uses.
Exactly. You can state your age. I am 22 years old. Your job. I am a writer.
Describe yourself. I am shy. Or just how you feel. I'm tired.
So it's I am plus.
Well, plus almost anything that describes you or your state. An adjective, a noun phrase.
Like I am a student. Right. Or even where you're from, which leads to the next phrase. But the point is, this simple I am structure lets you share basic info really quickly in all sorts of situations.
Super helpful for introductions and beyond.
Definitely. What do you do? I am an engineer. How are you feeling? I am happy. It's fundamental.
And you mentioned where you're from. The next phrase is indeed, I'm from the so.
Another one you'll use constantly in introductions. People are usually curious about origins.
Especially if you're visiting or have an accent.
Yeah. And this phrase gives you the structure to share that.
The source mentions you can vary the specifics, like country, city.
Yeah. You can say your country, I'm from the United States, I'm from China, or your city, I'm from Manila, or even a wider area, I'm from Africa. Depends how much detail you want to give.
It's a standard conversation starter, isn't it? Helps people place you, maybe find common ground.
Exactly. Often leads to follow-up questions, keeps the chat flowing. Oh, whereabouts? What's it like there? Standard get-to-know-you stuff.
Okay, now for a phrase that looks simple, but has this interesting cultural layer, especially in the US, according to the source, how are you?
Ah, the classic, how are you? Yes, the source is right. It's typically used with people you know as a polite check-in.
But then there's this important note, the source flags. This is where it gets tricky for learners.
It really is. The source explains that, particularly in the U.S., the common response isn't usually a detailed health update.
Right. It's usually something short and positive, like, I'm good, I'm well, maybe fine, thanks.
And this is the crucial part. You almost always follow up immediately by asking it back. And how are you?
So it's less of a real question about your well-being and more of a social ritual.
Pretty much. It functions as a polite greeting, a way to acknowledge someone, keep the interaction smooth. The example dialogue shows it perfectly. A, hello, how are you? B, I'm well, and how are you? Quick exchange.
Like when a cashier asks, how are you? They're not expecting your life story.
Generally not, no. A simple, good thanks, how are you? is the expected natural response in that kind of brief interaction.
Launching into a long answer might feel a bit off.
It can, yeah,
Yeah.
a little unexpected. So understanding this standard quick back and forth is key to sounding natural in these very common situations.
Of course, if it's a close friend asking seriously, the answer might be different.
Sure, context matters.
Right.
But for everyday encounters, keep it brief and return the question. It's about understanding the social job the phrase is doing.
That cultural note is gold for beginners. It's those unspoken rules that trip you up.
Absolutely. It's about the social function, not just the literal words. Okay, wrapping up this first contact section, the source covers how to end the chat.
Right. Goodbye, bye, and see you later.
And again, formality plays a role.
Yeah.
Goodbye is the most formal.
You might use that after a business meeting or with someone you don't know well.
Yeah. Then bye is the much more common, less formal version. Use all the time with friends, family, most casual situations, relaxed.
And see you later.
That one implies you expect to see the person again, probably relatively soon. Thanks for the coffee. See you later. It's less final than goodbye.
The source adds another useful tip here about adding something before the goodbye.
Yes, the important note about being extra polite by saying something like, "It was nice talking to you," or "It was great seeing you."
That's a nice touch. It was nice talking to you. Goodbye. Or great seeing you. Bye.
Adds warmth.
Definitely. It shows you valued the interaction, leaves a positive final impression. Choosing the right closer depends on, your relationship and when you might see them again. Another layer of social grace.
So that covers the basics of starting and ending those first conversations. Hello, names, the how are you, dance, goodbye.
Yeah,
Getting these right makes a huge difference.
it really does. Sets the stage for everything else, which leads nicely into the next section.
Right, moving from just greetings to the phrases that make all interactions smoother. The source calls this politeness is power courtesy phrases and social expressions. A good title, because these really are powerful. They're fundamental for sounding polite and navigating social stuff in English. They lubricate the conversation.
And maybe the most fundamental lubricant of all is,
Please. Has to be.
the source defines it simply. Use it anytime you ask for something. A very polite phrase.
And it's absolutely essential. The examples show why. May I have this, please? Can you please pass the salt?
Without the please, those sound like orders, don't they?
Completely. Give me this. Pass the salt. It's so abrupt, almost rude. Adding please just transforms the request, makes it considerate, respectful.
Probably one of the very first words a beginner needs to master.
I'd say so. And its natural partner is, of course, thank you.
Another non-negotiable for politeness.
Right. The source says use thank you,
Mm-hmm.
or the more casual thanks.
Yeah.
After someone gives you something, helps you, holds a door, any kind act.
So someone hands you your change. Thank you. Answers your question. Thank you.
Exactly. The source gives formal thank you for your help earlier and informal thanks for everything examples.
Expressing gratitude seems really important in English-speaking cultures.
It is highly valued. A simple thank you acknowledges their effort. Forgetting it can make you seem, well, unappreciative.
And knowing when to use thank you versus the quicker thanks comes with practice.
Yeah, it's part of getting the feel for different situations.
Okay, so someone says thank you to you. What's the standard reply?
Source gives the classic, "You're welcome."
The default response.
Pretty much. The source notes it works formally and informally. The example is straightforward. A, thanks for everything. B, you're welcome.
Seems simple, but it kind of completes the politeness cycle, doesn't it?
It does. It closes the loop, acknowledges the thanks, signals you're happy to help.
Are there other options?
Oh, sure. People say no problem, my pleasure, anytime, things like that. But you're welcome is the most neutral, universally understood one, a safe bet for beginners.
And not saying anything can feel a bit awkward.
Yeah, it can leave things hanging. Might even imply you weren't happy to help, which usually isn't the case.
Okay, moving on to fixing minor social bumps. Sorry.
Right. The source says, use this when you've slightly inconvenienced someone, usually by accident.
Like bumping into someone, stepping on their foot on the bus.
Exactly. Those kinds of everyday minor collisions or interruptions. The example, sorry, I didn't see you there, is perfect. Quick, immediate apology for a small thing.
Essential for getting around in crowded places without causing offense.
Definitely. It smooths over those little moments. And it's different from a big formal apology for a serious mistake, which would use stronger language.
And just like thank you has you're welcome, what's the response to a minor sorry?
The source gives us, that's okay.
meaning you accept the apology, no harm done.
Right. It signals you're not upset about the little bump or interruption. The dialogue example shows the standard back and forth. A, sorry, I didn't see you there. B, that's okay.
Helps to just smooth things over quickly. People might also say no worries or it's all right.
Exactly. It de-escalates any potential awkwardness, keeps things friendly.
Now, a really versatile phrase the source highlights with two key uses. Excuse me.
Ah, yes, this one's a real multi-tool for polite interaction. Invaluable.
The source breaks it down clearly. Use number 1.
To politely get someone's attention. If you need to ask a stranger a question, interrupt someone briefly, signal you need help, you start with, excuse me.
Like the example, excuse me, where does this train stop next? Using it to initiate the contact.
Precisely. And use number 2.
To politely ask someone to move if they're blocking your way.
Right. In a shop aisle, a doorway, the example is, excuse me, I need to get through.
How do people know which meaning you intend?
Usually context and tone of voice make it clear. Approaching someone directly often means you want to talk. Trying to walk past suggests you need space. Mastering, is key for both starting conversations and just physically navigating spaces politely.
Got it. The source then mentions take care as another way to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's a polite closing, often used when you have a somewhat friendly connection and expect to see them again, but maybe not right away.
What does it imply?
The source says it's like wishing someone well, hoping they stay safe until you meet next time. I enjoyed our chat. Take care.
It feels a bit warmer than just goodbye, maybe?
I think so. A bit more personal, conveys goodwill. It's a nice option when you've had a pleasant conversation, somewhere between goodbye and the less common farewell.
Okay, now for maybe a trickier point involving grammar and politeness, asking permission. The source gives may I and can I.
Right, and this is where the source includes a really important note because it's often confusing for learners.
What's the core issue?
While both are used for permission, grammatically speaking, may I is the traditionally correct form specifically for asking permission. Can I technically asks about your ability to do something.
Right. So may I use the restroom is asking permission. But can I use the restroom is technically asking if I'm physically capable of using it.
Exactly, which is usually obvious. The source gives examples like, may I smoke here? May I use the restroom? May I go with you? It stresses using may I when seeking permission.
But people use can I for permission all the time, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. The source acknowledges this. In informal, everyday chat, can I borrow your pen or can I sit here is extremely common and usually understood as asking permission.
So why is the distinction important?
Because understanding it helps you recognize more formal speech and, crucially, allows you to choose the most polite and technically correct option when needed. In formal situations, may I is definitely preferred. It sounds more respectful, more aware.
So aim for may I when asking permission, especially formally, even though can I is often heard.
That's a good way to think about it. It shows a higher level of politeness and grammatical awareness.
Okay. Related to asking, we have phrases for making requests. Asking someone else to do something. Could you, please? And can you?
These are your go-to structures for politely asking someone to perform an action for you.
And again, the source flags an important politeness difference.
Yes. Another important note. Could you is generally considered more polite than can you.
Why is that? What makes could more polite?
Could is a bit more indirect, more tentative. It subtly implies the other person has a choice, or that you recognize the request might be an imposition. It shows more deference.
Whereas can you is more direct, almost like asking if they're able.
Kind of. Could you feels more like a softer request for them to do it. And of course, adding please to either one bumps up the politeness level even further.
So you might say, can you pass the water to a family member, but maybe, could you please tell me the time to a stranger?
Exactly. The examples reflect this. Could you turn off the AC? Is polite. Could you please open the window? Is even more so.
Being able to switch between can you, and could you please lets you really adjust your tone.
Precisely. Match it to the situation, who you're talking to, how big the request is. It's a key part of navigating interactions smoothly.
That really covers those core politeness phrases. Small words, big impact.
Huge impact. They really are the oil in the gears of social interaction.
Okay, let's shift gears now into really practical, specific situations. The source has a section on practical needs, dining, and shopping phrases.
Yes. Situations every beginner will face. Ordering food, buying things, interacting with staff. Having the right phrases here is super helpful.
Definitely. The source kicks off with a very common one for ordering food. Can I get
Yes,
both?
this is probably the standard way to order in many restaurants or cafes, especially in the US and Canada.
Yeah.
Just fill the blank with what you want.
The examples are typical. Can I get the shrimp Alfredo? Or can I get another glass of wine? Direct, efficient.
Very common, very natural in that context.
Then the source gives us another super common restaurant phrase, which is even shorter. Please.
Right. Simple but versatile. The source points out two main ways it's used here.
First, you can often just use it instead of, can I get, please, for ordering, even quicker.
Yeah. Shrimp Alfredo, please.
Yeah.
Another glass of wine, please. Just the item plus please. Very concise.
And the second use is absolutely critical.
Asking for the bill. Check, please.
That's one everyone needs to know. Signals you're ready to pay. Polite and clear.
Essential for ending the meal smoothly.
Now, a slightly more formal, but also very versatile phrase, I would like useful in restaurants and shops.
Right. It's good for describing something you want. I would like the shrimp Alfredo works for ordering.
But you could also use it in a store, pointing, perhaps. I would like this one.
Exactly. It expresses a desire for a specific item. It feels a little more formal than can I get, making it suitable for a wider range of situations.
And there's an important grammar point here the source highlights about using it for actions.
Yes, the important note about verbs. If you use I would like to talk about an action you want to do, you need the infinitive form of the verb meaning to plus the verb.
So not I would like try on this dress, but
Why I'd like to try on this dress. You need that to before the action verb try.
that's a key detail. I would like a coffee object versus I would like to order coffee action. Getting that right makes you sound much more correct.
It really does. Okay, next up, checking if something is available. Do you have?
Vital in both restaurants and stores. Asking staff if they stock what you're looking for.
The source gives great examples showing the range. Do you have vegetarian options for dietary needs in a restaurant?
Do you have dragon fruit in a grocery store?
Do you have smaller size in a clothing shop? Covers all sorts of scenarios.
It's a massive time saver, right? Ask first before you spend ages searching.
Definitely direct way to get the info you need.
Now, related but slightly different, may I see?
Yes. The source distinguishes this well.
Yeah.
You use this when you want to look at something you already know or assume they have. You're not asking if they have it, but asking to examine it.
So you wouldn't ask, do you have the dessert menu? If you assume they do, you'd ask.
May I see the dessert menu? Or if you see jewelry in a case, may I see that necklace? It's a polite request for a closer look at something available.
Got it. Back to restaurants for a moment. The source includes, could you bring Silas?
Yeah, this is typically aimed at a waiter or waitress. A polite request for them to bring something to your table.
Examples being, could you bring the menu? Could you bring the check? Could you bring more bread?
How is it different from can I get when ordering, say, more bread?
Good question. Can I get focuses on your desire to receive the item? Could you bring focuses more on the server's action of delivering it? It's often used for things you need brought to you, menus, condiments, water, the bill. It's framed specifically as a request for service. Both often work, but could you bring emphasizes the delivery action.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, for finding your way around stores.
Where can I find it? Absolutely crucial.
Couldn't agree more. Big supermarkets, department stores.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost. This is how you ask staff for directions to an item or section.
The examples are spot on. Where can I find leeks? Specific item. Where can I find the Asian food aisle section?
And the all-important, where can I find the restroom?
Possibly one of the most vital phrases for anyone out and about. Knowing this saves so much time and potential panic.
It really does. Key for getting help finding things quickly.
Next, the fundamental question for any purchase. How much is JEG?
Your basic phrase for asking the price.
The source notes that while prices are often marked in stores, they might not be in some restaurants or for certain services.
Right, so you might need to ask, how much is the shrimp Alfredo? Or how much is this bottle of wine before ordering if prices aren't listed?
Less needed for every item in a typical store, but essential when prices aren't clear. Vital for managing money.
Absolutely. Essential for making informed choices.
Now, a really practical one for payment, particularly relevant in the U.S., is a credit card okay?
Yes, the source mentions cards are common in the U.S., but correctly warns that smaller places, rural shops, maybe farmers markets, might be cash only or have card minimums.
So asking first is just smart, avoids that awkward moment at the till if you only have a card.
Exactly. The example dialogue is simple. Clerk says the total, you ask, is a credit card okay? Boom. They say yes or no. Simple prevents problems.
Very useful everyday phrase.
And the last one in this practical section deals with queuing etiquette. Are you in line?
Ah, yes. Respecting the queue. Or the line, as they say more in the U.S.
Right. The source notes in line, U.S. versus in the queue, U.K. Commonwealth. The point is asking if someone is waiting their turn
Why is this important?
to avoid accidentally cutting in front of someone. It's considered quite rude. The source also has an important note about the likely responses.
Okay.
If you ask, excuse me, are you in line? And they say, oh no, go ahead. It means they weren't actually waiting, and you can go first. That's a common, polite way for them to indicate that.
And if they just say yes,
Then they are in line, and you need to find your place behind them. The example shows the polite exchange. A asks, B says, oh no, go ahead. A says, thank you.
seems simple, but crucial for navigating checkouts, bus stops, anywhere people wait their turn, respects the social rules.
Absolutely. Prevents unintentional offense.
So those dining and shopping phrases cover a lot of ground for everyday transactions, very practical stuff.
Which leads us to the final and maybe most critical section for beginners. When you need help, asking for assistance.
These are the real safety net phrases, aren't they? For when you're stuck, lost, or something goes wrong.
Exactly. The source rightly stresses how important these are for overcoming challenges, language barriers, getting lost, emergencies. They're empowering.
First one tackles the language barrier head on. Do you speak?
A really useful dual-purpose phrase. You can use it to find an English speaker if you're elsewhere. Excuse me, do you speak English?
Or, if you're struggling in English, you might use it to find someone who speaks your language. Excuse me, do you speak Japanese or Spanish or whatever it is?
And the source reminds us, quite rightly, to use excuse me first to get attention politely.
This is your first line of defense when communication breaks down. Actively finding someone you can talk to.
Absolutely. Puts you back in control.
If the problem is location, the key phrase is, where is S?
Simple, direct, essential for finding your way.
The examples cover common needs. Where is the pharmacy? Where is the community center? And of course, where is the restroom?
Fundamental for getting directions, finding basic necessities. A core survival phrase.
What if you're mid-conversation and hit a word you don't know or want to express something specific?
Ah, the source gives a fantastic tool for on-the-spot learning. How do you say in English? Or vice versa.
So you can ask for a translation either way.
Exactly. Point to something. How do you say this in English?
Mm.
Say a word in your language. How do you say your word in English? Or even ask for a translation into another language, like the example, how do you say you have a beautiful smile in Spanish?
That turns confusion into a learning moment right there in the conversation.
It does. Shows you're trying, helps you build vocabulary actively. Great phrase.
What if the problem isn't a specific word, but just that you didn't hear or understand what was said? Maybe they spoke too fast.
Then you need ways to ask for repetition. The source offers, can you say that again? And can you repeat?
Both do the same job.
Pretty much. Politely asking the speaker to say what they just said one more time. The example dialogue shows using it after a complex sentence.
Essential for controlling the pace, making sure you actually understand. It's okay to ask.
Absolutely okay, and much better than just nodding and pretending you understood. Using these shows you're engaged.
But what if they repeat it and you still don't get it?
For that, the source gives the direct, clear phrase, I don't understand.
Simple but effective.
Very. The source notes it's useful for complex topics or fast speech. The example shows combining it. I don't understand. Can you repeat?
It feels quite powerful, actually, just clearly stating the problem.
It is. It signals unambiguously that the other person needs to try a different approach. Rephrase, slow down, explain differently. Stops you getting lost or agreeing to things you haven't grasped. It's a confident beginner move.
And if simple repetition isn't enough and you need more explanation,
Then the source suggests, can you explain it?
asking for clarification, not just repetition.
Exactly. You understood the words, maybe, but not the meaning or the implication. Examples. Can you explain what this sign means? Or can you explain what she said, if the meaning was unclear?
Helps you get the why or the full picture when just hearing it again isn't enough.
Right. Digging a bit deeper for understanding.
Okay, finally, the source groups together some really crucial emergency phrases.
The ones you hope you never need, but absolutely should know. For safety and security.
These are for urgent, serious situations. I need a doctor. Call the police. Can you help me? I lost my passport.
I need a doctor. Clear signal for medical help. Example, I'm hurt. I need a doctor. Urgent.
Call the police for emergencies needing law enforcement. Crime, serious accidents. Example, someone stole her purse. Call the police.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
We saw this earlier for general help, but here it's in its urgent role. I think I'm lost. Can you help me? Feels much more serious than asking for the restroom.
And I lost my passport. A specific nightmare for travelers needing immediate attention, often paired with, can you help me?
Knowing these specific phrases, having them ready just in case, provides enormous peace of mind. In a crisis, being able to communicate the basic need is vital, could be life-saving.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So from that very first hello all the way to potential emergency calls for help, that's a really solid foundation.
It is. This source lays out an excellent roadmap for beginners. As it concludes, learning and actually practicing these phrases can genuinely make daily life smoother, boost confidence, help you sound more natural.
It's not about instant fluency, is it? It's about getting those functional tools to handle common interactions, the ones that can cause so much stress otherwise.
Exactly. And the source rightly encourages practice. Start today. Like any skill, the more you use them, the easier they become. They need to become automatic.
Totally. So for you listening, take that advice to heart. Mastering these basics isn't just about grammar, it's about confidence. It's about being able to step out and engage.
Each phrase is a tool for connection, really. Asking for help, being polite, introducing yourself.
So think about the phrases we've talked through. Maybe pick one that resonated, something you've struggled with or know you'll need. And then the challenge is, what small step can you take, maybe even today, to consciously use just one of these phrases in a real situation?
Even a tiny interaction. Yeah. That's where it starts. Using the language is how you learn it.
That first conscious use, that's the key.